this, I don't know how to pronounce her name, Gloria Dlamini Liebenberg says, "My husband and I have introduced paid menstrual leave for our female employees. This makes me so happy as a woman." So some women experience debilitating menstrual cramps and do indeed find it difficult to work for some days each month. And those women, I know, I've known some of them, do find it unnerving to have to request sick days, especially on those days. It's not all women. I really don't think it's a majority of women. And in fact, at a different moment, perhaps we can talk about actually what menstruation and all of the things associated with it mean in light of our post-industrial context, and what it actually looks like in pre-industrial context, and what therefore we might be doing to alleviate a lot of this pain and agony for so many women who live in the weird world, Western, educated, industrialized, rich, democratic countries. So it's not even close to a majority of women, even in the weird world. Furthermore, most women, I believe, would prefer privacy to having a monthly leave in which their absence is therefore understood by their employer and all of their colleagues to be about this being that time of the month for them. This smacks to me of menstrual huts. Of, for instance, the Hadza in, I think it's West Africa, and a few other hunter-gatherer cultures in which women are effectively ostracized while they are menstruating, and it's a way of publicly marking them in terms of where they are in their cycles, which is a way for men to control fertility of women. And obviously that's not the motivation here. It's not, the motivation isn't to control the fertility of female workers, but it feels exactly like that to me. And it'll allow people who are keeping track to know when a woman is late. Maybe when she's entering menopause, when things get less regular. This seems a little less than desirable for an employer and all of the colleagues to know. So, if this had emerged from a conservative, obviously this would be laughable, right? It'd be just insane, justly ridiculed. It would be incredible outrage. You're going to do what now? But I think also, maybe the way to approach this as a way to make it clear that this is just a terrible policy, and it can't last. Like it's no company that's doing this is any company that does this. The women are going to start costing more, and then they're going to start hiring men more because the women cost more, and then there's going to be complaints that they aren't hiring enough women, and it's just down this road nothing good will come. But we do have. And I think it's necessary that we have things like pregnancy leave. And there are real barriers to female success in career tracks that require, hard-paced, hard-charging work exactly during your reproductive years, during which time pregnancy and early motherhood may render you less able or less willing to be hard-charging in the same way. And so, at least in academia, the world that we know the best, there have been some moves to, for instance, stop the tenure clock for a year or two, such that your publication record during the time when you were perhaps having a kid does not count against you in the same way that it would. It's not a perfect solution, but it's you can't make it the same. Right? Men and women are not the same. And this will always be a problem. There is no easy solution. But I was just thinking that if time off for menstruation is to be a thing, given that women menstruate and men don't, yeah, you heard it here first. That's actually true. In the name of equity, I think, then following this business's lead, it's also true across cultures, across time, that men have shorter lifespans than women. And therefore, we should mandate earlier retirement for men to allow for the same average period of lifespan that's post-work. So in order to provide equitable post-retirement work.
Oh, this is such a dangerous line of thinking because, of course, that limits male earning potential. So you would have to pay them more to earn the same amount in a shorter period of time, given that our lives are accelerated. Yeah, this is really terrible stuff.
It's awful. It's ridiculous.
It's preposterous. And it's another wonderful demonstration of the need for Rawlsian veil of ignorance thinking, because, of course, if, as you suggest in here, as you hint at, if it is true that women deserve time off for menstrual symptoms, and there's no difference between men and women, then men also do. Right. And so the point is, you can just see how if you begin to play with these conclusions, what the real point is, here's some people we would like to give an advantage to, and here's some logic we cobbled together to explain why they get the advantage. But the problem is it's Lego, and you could take those same garbagey arguments and establish them to prioritize anybody.
Right. There are differences. There are differences. Here's the way that we can frame these differences as a burden that needs to be eradicated. Or frankly, here's the way. So I'm just the insane proposal to allow men to retire earlier in order to pursue an equitable outcome with regard to post-retirement years is just trying to make the burden the burden show up in the other column. Like we can play this game all we want,
right?
And it doesn't make it any more humane or reasonable, right?
No, and the irony of it, right, is if you did play this game, right, if you really began to remake civilization, as we are doing, based on these nonsense conclusions that exist in isolation, and, steadfastly ignore the thing that would be on the other side of it, if you just simply uninvented all of the counterintuitive stuff that makes civilization work, and you employed it, you would create all of the failures that are so intolerable, and you would end up reinventing it on the other side, right? I mean, if you survive to do it, right? The danger is, of course, that by hobbling ourselves, we don't exist in a vacuum, and we can't afford to go insane for 20 years with, China hovering outside looking to poach, opportunity or whatever. So we don't get that luxury, but were we to do it, effectively, it would be like a lesson in why that counterintuitive stuff is so important. And, you can almost imagine the reinvention of all of it, and, how everybody would suddenly be aware of the importance of these things. And really, it's like, can we just skip to that part? Can we skip to the part where we remind ourselves why these things are so important, and why ultimately you cannot do better than, for example, a colorblind society? You cannot do better than a meritocracy in which people have equal access. And I'm not saying that that's what we have, but I am saying, in terms of a goal, that's it.
Yeah.
You will not exceed it, right? So, we've
got some system that has the potential to be functional, and how functional it is and where we are in the process is what the good faith people are disagreeing on, and we're going to get push here, push there, a little bit of push. But we are being asked to say, nope, we're going all the way over here, right? And that's because we've been all the way over here in the past, like in 1950s Alabama, and before the Civil War, and all of these things. And this kind of arc in society, which we're going from extreme to extreme, does not leave a society after very many swings of that pendulum, whereas a relatively tight swing with adjustments, with the ability for constant pushback against a trend towards extremism on any side, can allow for progress, and history suggests that it does do exactly that.
Yeah, and in some sense, you can reduce the entire thing to a battle between those who wish to fix what's wrong with the system, and all reasonable people recognize that it doesn't reach that which it aspires to do. But it's a battle between the people who want to fix what's wrong and those who want to uninvent it on the basis of what is claimed to be wrong. And the fact is, the people who want to uninvent it don't know what they're talking about. They can't tell you where we're headed. They can't tell you how we would get there. And they don't appear to have even the basic skills to analyze, where you need a counterintuitive conclusion. And we just don't have time for them to learn it by destroying what we've got and having to rediscover it all.